Hi, this is Terrence Houlihan of F1Linux.com in the Wahiba Sands, also called the Al Sharqi Sands in the Omani Desert. I'm just going to recapitulate everything I've learned about setting up a portable solar power system. There's a lot of little ins and outs, and I'm just going to try to save you the time I spent trying to put my little system together. Right. First thing we'll do is we'll start off with an overview of the system, and that would give you at least an opportunity of beginning to understand the individual components when I speak about them in turn. Right. Okay. So we have some solar panels, okay, right here. You'll notice they're in a closed state. That's for a reason. I'll get to that in a second. We have a charge controller, okay. We have a battery, and on the other side we have an inverter. Now we're going to divide this system into two halves, collection and distribution. Now on the collection side we have solar panels, solar charge controller, and battery. On the distribution side, we have an AC inverter. Now, this is how the system generally works. We connect the battery to the solar charge controller, and then we connect the other end of the solar charge controller to the solar panels. Now what the solar charge controller does is it regulates the flow of energy between the panels and the battery. The battery is 12 volt. Panels could send as much as 20 volt. Given the the power of the sun and the position of the panels, it can send more voltage to the battery than it wants. So we need this in between the two on the collection side. On the distribution side, we have, this is my demonstration of 500 watt AC inverter. It's a modified sine wave. Now, we will also join this to the battery. So the solar panels are topping up the battery, hopefully at an equivalent or slightly higher rate than the connected devices to the AC inverter that are drawing the power out. So if we keep that state of equilibrium, we won't go down to the, we won't drain the battery and get down to the depth of discharge limit of the battery, which would end a little setup there for the time being until the battery charges itself back up again. So right, let me go into the specifics of acquiring these parts and things you need to know about. These are a 200 watt set of panels, and when I say set, they're actually an array. They're four 50 watt panels connected together in an array, and under optimal conditions you can achieve 200 watts. Optimal conditions, okay? That's test conditions. The sun moves, the sun's intensity will vary at different times of the day with the season, so unless you're going to constantly move these panels, your results are going to be some degree different than that optimal figure you get from the factory. Also, sizing the panels. You need to work backwards from what you plan on powering with your panels. You could get any set of panels at any set of wattages, but it's only an arbitrary decision if it's not based on some information. You need to work out what your power requirements are to get an appropriate set of panels that can top the battery up at a level consistent with which these devices are going to suck the power out of the battery. Also, you want to size them as closely as you can to your power requirements. These are 5.1 kilos. Now, if I could go down even to 150, now I have 3 times 50 watt panels. So I'm going to lose about a kilo. If I can drop that down to 2 panels, and to 100 watts. Now I'm down to 2 times 50 panels. So now I've cut 5.1, into 2.5 kilos. So significant weight savings when you consider your luggage allowance is 23 kilos. If you can drop that down as close to your power requirements, you're going to have more space for other things. Also, before purchasing a set of panels, do check the physical dimensions fully folded. These are folded half open. They're not exposed to the sun for a reason. I'll get that in a second. Right. Solar charge controller. This came with my set of panels. I didn't need to acquire this. It was in the package, and there's 2 types of controller: a PWM and an MPPT controller. Pulse, PW is pulse width modulation, and I don't recall what the acronym is for the MPPT one is. But there's 2 types of control. There's a lot to look at with that. PWM looks like it's the more common one, but be aware with the PWM controller, it can introduce interference into audio and video devices. It's possible. I don't know if it's likely, but it's possible from my reading. Okay, so just be aware of that. That's one of the downsides of the PWM controller. Now, the the controller in general, any controller, since it's going to be made to work with a battery, you need to look at compatibility in the user's guide of batteries that the controller likes. So go into user manuals, and if you go into the specifications, it'll probably have some codes about batteries it likes. That is going to be your starting point for acquiring a battery. Now, so you need a battery that otherwise will play nicely with your controller. Batteries are rated in age, ampere hours. That is to say, a 1 amp device could be powered for 100 hours, theoretically, with within 100 AH battery. Now, that's only half the story. That's a theoretical number. Now, there's something called depth of discharge. That is the practical limit you can drain the battery. Now, if you were to get what's called a cranking battery, that is kind of your standard battery that you see in cars, its depth of discharge is only 10%. So that 100 amp hours is now your effective is only 10 amp hours for a cranking battery. Cranking batteries are not really suitable for solar power systems. You want something called a deep cycle battery. Deep cycle batteries have on average a depth of discharge of about 50%, some as high as 70%, but it looks like the average you can use about 50% of a battery's capacity. So if you have a 100 AH battery and it's deep cycle, now 50 AH is actually usable. Okay. Now if you're going to traveling with a 12-volt battery is not an option. Airlines ain't going to allow it. It's too heavy anyway. I would suggest trying to source a deep cycle battery in the country you're traveling to well in advance of actually traveling there. See if you can find somebody who will rent you one, loan you one, sell you one, I don't know, before you go. Or you're going to spend the first day, 2, or possibly not even acquire a battery at all for your solar power system. Batteries are expensive. Be aware, and if you do use these things off-grid, don't abandon them, please. They're toxic as hell. Do return them to whoever you got the thing from. All right. So, those are some key considerations on the collection side. Now let's move over to the distribution side. Acquiring an inverter. Let's say I have 4 96-watt MacBook Pros I want to charge. Okay, this is a 500 watt inverter. for inverters, continuous wattage is the same as the advertised. I got a little surprised with this. This is a modified sine wave one. It's advertised as 500. However, continuous is only 400. So that would actually be insufficient to supply the required power for shed load MacBooks. Okay, I might be 100 short. Another thing you have to look at is the surge voltage. Depending, so in sizing an inverter in terms of wattage, you merely add together all the watts of the devices, and hopefully it'll be less than the size of the inverter you're hoping to buy. Another thing you have to look at is surge capacity. Some devices, like things with motors, they will have a greater initial requirement than what it continuously runs at. So in that respect, you need a bit of an elasticated waistband in terms of the inverter. So if you were to get, let's say, a 1,000 watt inverter, it might say that it has that it allowed devices to surge up to 2,000 watts for a very brief period of time. So you have to be both aware of total wattage of connected devices, as well as devices that may surge on startup, and that will inform your choices about purchasing an inverter. Now, there's two types of inverters: modified sine wave and pure sine wave. Pure is the better of the two, but it's also more expensive. Modified sine wave can introduce interference like the PWM controller. It can, it's not guaranteed, but it could introduce interference into LCD TVs, monitors, audio devices, and it generally doesn't play well with power tools or the battery charges that power the power tools. So there are some limitations on using modified sine wave. Be aware of that. Now, let's say when you're abroad, you can only source a cranking battery. Now, if that's the case, you might as well just use the car adapter for your inverter and power your devices from the cigarette lighter off the inverter connected to the cigarette lighter. It's going to have such small capacity as not being worth lugging around. So I can't stress the importance of sourcing a deep cycle battery enough. If you Google, deep cycle batteries, you'll see a bunch of results come up. They tend to be expensive. And if you go to Amazon, they're sold on Amazon. Now you have lithium ion is one, but they tend to be expensive. Lead acid batteries, 12-volt batteries, are probably what you are going to see the most of. Lead acid batteries have, the two popular types are flooded and what's the other one? Valve regulated somethings. I'll post a little thing underneath the video when I'm done. You have gel and AGM. Gel seems to be the battery a lot of people plump for. It seems to be quite popular, as AGM has its own specific use cases. Flooded, problem with flooded is that it's got a liquid medium, and it's subject to extreme temperatures of hot and cold. So flooded batteries, beyond requiring maintenance, are not good for extreme environments. Okay, so being in the desert, I wouldn't want to have a flooded battery with me because of the extreme heats. Now, flooded batteries, they're called flooded because there's apertures and you have to maintain them and add water, top them up periodically. The other types of batteries, these are called sealed. The gel and the AGM and the lithium ion are called sealed batteries. There's no apertures to add water to these, okay? Right, let's get to connecting up the bits. Okay, you'll notice my panels are in a folded state. There's no point in, because once I expose these to the sun, they're working. There's no point in opening them until I'm ready for them to actually do something useful. In terms of organizing your battery, always be careful, okay? So you're with, okay, negative, positive. Always be aware of your orientation and double check before connecting anything. Now, the first thing you're going to connect is the solar controller to the battery. Now, when I bought these panels, I got the solar controller, and I got a set of leads here. I got two sets of leads. This is like an extension lead, and these are for attachment to the battery. So don't really need those for the time, so those there. So now I have two sets of leads. Remember I said this sat in between the battery and the set of panels. I got two sets of leads. So what do I connect it to? There's little symbols over here. Now there's a symbol on the controller for panels, and then there's another symbol for battery. So the longer one is for the battery. So these can only be mated in one way. So I can't get this wrong. As much as I want, I can't get that wrong. So we connected the solar controller to the battery cables. Now we're going to double check. Okay. Negative, negative. Okay. Positive, positive. Okay. Now we're going to connect the controller, the remaining connector. Whoop. Let's see, I'll fold this over like this so you can see. This is the other part coming out of a little pouch. We'll connect that together. Okay, let's open that up. There we go. Now we can see, whoa, we got some magic going on here. So, that's all happy as Larry. Now, a little dusty out here, a little bit windy out here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect up the inverter. I'm going to make sure it's in an off state. Okay, that's that. So, we're going to hook up the negative side. Okay, got that. And then we're going to hook up the positive side. Okay, there we go. So now, we got everything happy. Okay, now I'm going to turn it on. You can't hear it, but it's doing something. Now, I'm going to open my panels. There we go. Okay. So now, I've got an 85-watt MacBook I'm going to plug into the AC inverter. So the solar power is collected, flows through the inverter, the solar charge controller, which regulates the flow of the DC output to the battery. That's collection side. On the distribution side, we have sort of a parallel configuration, negative to negative, positive to positive, hooked up on a 500-watt modified sine wave inverter. Also working with battery. Please note, they're dangerous. When I sourced this battery, it was used. A garage owner was just nice enough to help me out. I made a visual inspection of it to make sure that it wasn't bulging in places. The case wasn't obviously cracked, okay? So as far as I could see, it looked like the battery was okay. There were no obvious defects to the battery. But you should wear protective, shield, hand covering, something over your body, because a battery were to explode, very toxic, could be deadly. You shouldn't lean over a battery when working on a battery. So anyway, that's all the health and safety stuff. So, also heavy. Batteries are heavy. Don't put your back out. Alright, okay. So now, I'm gonna, assuming everything is working in the way I described it to you, okay, we have 200 watts, theoretically, that are supplying our battery, and we have an 85-watt adapter. Should be okay. for our purposes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that that's actually doing something. Right, okay, let me do that. That goes there. Let's see if we can show you that it's actually doing something useful. It's an old MacBook. I got a 2018, so I don't mind if this one gets a little dirty and a little sandy. Still fine. It takes a beat, and I've taken this thing all over the world. Right. So let's see. So now, let me go to my power thing. Let's see what it says. Wait a minute. That's my little... let's see. Oh, there's sand everywhere. Let me see what I can see. Oh shit. I'm not seeing anything because the thing keeps coming off. I do apologize. There we go. Okay. You can see a green light on that. That's just gone orange. Now, clearly that's doing something, but I'm going to see if you can home in there. And it should say on mains or something like that. Let me see. So let me see what I can see. Yeah, so something like power from adapter. So anyway, you can see that it's actually taking its power from that inverter. Right. And most importantly, well, I won't say most importantly, but equally importantly, let's do this. Equally importantly is how we take it all apart. Remember that we hooked up the battery first. Well, we'll unhook the battery last and do things in the inverse. So let's take that off. Take that off. Okay, and let's unhook this. Okay. And now, last, we'll, oh, no, wait a second. Do that, and then we'll do that. Okay. And I tried to make that as quick and as painless as I could. I hope you have enough useful information to begin putting your own system together if you care to. I'm going to put together a question and answer on Stack Exchange, which is going to have very granular information. So after watching this video, please follow the link I'm going to give you, and that will really give you a lot of good guidance on acquiring your components for your system. Thank you. Terrence Houlihan, F1Linux.com from the Wahiba Sands in the Omani Desert.